I forgot to plan. All right, so we did this last time on the last show when we did the Big Ten midseason predictions and stuff like that. So we're gonna get into some Big Ten New Year's resolutions. So these are our picks for what we think certain teams in the Big Ten need to resolve, do better, change, however you want to describe it, in 2024 based on how 2023 has gone so far. I didn't put any rules on this other than just whatever you think needs to change. So whether it's fire somebody, whether it's do this thing differently on the basketball court, whether it's, get a bigger arena, I have no idea what these guys chose, but we're going to try to figure something out for all of these guys. And we have assigned different teams for each of us, or we'll talk about our designations. So I'll go first. I have the Illinois Fighting Illini, and my resolution for them is they need to focus on sharing the ball more and getting more assists. So for Illinois, not a single player on their team averages more than 3 assists per game. I think actually their assist leader has played in 3 games so far with 2.7 assists per game or something like that. It's been kind of their downfall in some of their games. It was their downfall against Tennessee. Not enough ball sharing, in my opinion. Their assist percentage is 42.4% on shots made. That's good for 321st in the nation. Now, once you get into the 300s, that's not very good. That's not what you want to see. And only 12.5 assists, team assists per game. So for me, there needs to be more assists. There needs to be more sharing of the ball. And we can talk all day long about how Illinois doesn't have a point guard, yada, 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 whatever we want to say. But the fact is, these guys need to do a better job of sharing the ball, not just playing ISO ball, but sharing and getting better shots, easier shots to make those things happen. So you guys got any comments on sharing the ball more for Illinois?
Yeah, I kind of went similar. So, when you first posed this question and put this as a topic for tonight, it's very open ended. So, some of them were, I compared to actual New Year's resolutions we'd have, and some of them are just straight basketball. But for Illinois, I put work on the Shannon Jr. Coleman Hawkins relationship. So, kind of in that same vein of sharing the ball, of working together, being more cohesive as a team, and not just kind of ISO ball, kind of, make something work. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a weakness for sure. Spartan Dog, you got any thoughts?
No, I agree 100%. You look at Illinois, and sometimes the offense can be really static because, the guy in charge of the ball just wants to get it down to 5 seconds and chuck a shot, right? Everyone wants to be a hero. Not everyone can be a hero. It's a team sport. And I definitely think that's something that Brad Underwood needs to resolve heading into league play, because if you're going to play hero ball all in the Big Ten, you're going to get eaten alive.
Yeah. For sure. All right, Russ, you said you love Indiana teams, so we gave you Indiana. Go ahead and give us your Indiana knowledge.
Maybe not Indiana teams. I don't know. That's tough for me to say. I love when I talk about this team. But for Indiana, I actually kind of had to. But the first one that came to mind was to finally maximize their potential. So one of the things that's gone through the last decade or so, the Purdue-IU rivalry, is obviously Purdue has done quite well in the basketball rivalry. And on top of that, Purdue fans love dunking on the Indiana fans even further by posting recruiting rankings or, kind of projections going into that season. And Indiana has always just had such high potential. They've always got these 4-star, 5-star guys, but it always seems like they cannot figure it out. They can't get it to work. I don't know if it's just overthinking it. We were talking about last time I was on here, that they just need to ride the hot hand sometimes. Don't overthink it. Don't have to, feel like you got to drive it to a certain guy. You don't have to get Mbako or Kalo where there's a certain amount of touches. If Galloway's going off that night, just keep feeding him. If Kalo Ware's having a good night, then feed him. So, maximize that potential and let it be more natural. Don't overthink it. I know Woodson's an NBA guy and he tries to think of things in an NBA mindset, but as we might see talking about another coach later, that doesn't always work out in the college game.
I agree. That's a great point. Spartan Dog, you have any thoughts on that?
No, yeah, definitely. I definitely think that Indiana's leaving a lot on the table, a lot to be desired in the little I've seen of them so far this season. They've regressed mightily. Missing Trace Jackson Davis, and they just kind of need to figure out a way to fill that hole one way or the other, because one of the underrated parts about Trace Jackson Davis's game was that, he could facilitate for other players on the floor, which is very rare in a big man, right? Like he
Right.
took up a lot of oxygen, but he could also, he was really good at kickouts and finding open guys when, they were shutting down the lanes and doubling.
Yeah.
And they haven't found that guy yet.
It's been a weakness this season for sure, that they have to figure out. All right, Spartan Dog. So you for Iowa, what are your thoughts on Fran McCaffrey's Iowa Hawkeyes?
The Iowa Hawkeyes, the basketball team, they got to spend some time with Kirk Ferentz and Phil Parker over in the football building, because they have one of the most impressive offenses in college basketball. They are top 15 in a lot of offensive statistics, but they are putrid on defense. Putrid. Their points against per game is 313th in the country out of 362 Division I basketball teams. That's like in the bottom, like 20th, 15th percentile. Just awful, awful defense. It's been kind of a calling card of Fran McCaffrey teams as of late, but they're continuing to regress on defense. And, they've gotten some awesome offensive performances out of guys like Peyton Sandfort, but they're just unable to, they couldn't stop a nosebleed.
Right.
So they definitely gotta get a call in with Coach Ferentz and Phil Parker and get that stuff straightened out.
I'm all for Phil Parker becoming an assistant coach for the basketball team in addition to the football team. Russ, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, my one-liner for Iowa was get Fran McCaffrey some anger management classes. It's funny and it's a cool gimmick, but like as soon as they start to struggle, that's one of those things that it gets real old real fast for a fan base in a school like that.
Yeah, it does. It does. All right, I can't believe how opposite the Iowa football and basketball program is. It's wild. All right, my Maryland resolution is get better shots and make them. So I know that's like super simple, but honestly, like you look at the statistics, last in the conference in assists per game. They have 11 assists per game. That's last in the conference. Last in the conference in field goal percentage, 41%. Last in the conference in 3-point shooting percentage. And the only player on their team that shoots above 35% from behind the 3-point line is Jahmir Young. And he's shooting 35.2%. So things are not going well shooting-wise for Maryland, and I think, honestly, a big factor in it is they need to be sharing the ball better. They need to be setting each other up for better shots, and that, honestly, that's just kind of what their offense comes down to. We thought Jahmir Young would have some more help on offense this year, but he doesn't. He's still being forced to do a lot of the legwork on his own. Now, Julian Reese is a good player. However, it can't be the two-man show on offense. They have to figure out a way to share the ball, get more assists, and shoot better from the field. Spartan Dog, you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah. Illinois, they're a little bit similar to Illinois, right? But Illinois' problem is that they don't want to share the ball, right? Everyone wants to be the hero. Here, they're kind of looking at Jahmir Young, and they're like, you do it. You save us. I watched that game. I watched that Gavitt games against Villanova where they just got taken behind the woodshed. Mm-hmm. And it was like, if Jahmir Young didn't score until like garbage time, which like was like 5 minutes left in the first half onward was garbage time in that game. If Jahmir Young didn't score, it was very rare that someone else was putting the ball in the bottom of the bucket. So they got to find a second guy, or someone's got to step up and kind of help Jahmir Young out by taking some of the oxygen of the defense away, because it is not you can't be a one-man show in college basketball, especially in the Big Ten.
Oh yeah, for sure. Russ, you got any thoughts on that before we move on?
Yeah, we talked about earlier in the year guard rankings and how I kind of poked fun at Jahmir Young being a volume guy. And that can be enough of a problem when you're leaning on a volume guy to be your leading scorer. But when you're, as a team, a volume team where you're not shooting a great percentage, that's not a great recipe for success at all.
No, it's not. It's not at all. All right. Another team that I could think of a few different resolutions, but Russ, I'll let you come up to one on them. Michigan, what's your resolution for them?
Speaking of anger management classes.
So
I wasn't
Michigan,
going to say it.
So this is I went a little bit different. This is kind of more personal one, like relating to your own maybe personal resolution. I put, is this the year you leave that roller coaster relationship that clearly doesn't look like a long-term relationship? Right? Like you had a great, honeymoon phase. It seemed like it was going to be really great at the beginning. He's the Michigan guy, had some decent success at first, but now it's become a lot of drama, a lot of fighting, a lot of back and forth, a lot of he said, she said. So is this finally the year that you say, you know what, look, we had some good times. I hope we can try to end this on good terms, but either way, this isn't going to work out long term. We've got to find a way to cut this off.
That could fit so many different resolutions. That was poetic, Russ. I appreciate that. A Spartan Dog, I'm sure you agree with that, right?
No, I absolutely agree. The other thing they got to look better, they got to learn how to win, right? I mean, you go back basically since that 2021 COVID March Madness, they have not closed a game. That's been a major issue for them, is they are not able to win close games. They aren't able to stop the bleeding on big runs. They just kind of, it's at a point where if they're not leading wire to wire, they're losing. Right. And that is just not something you can sustain anywhere in basketball.
You would think better coaching would help that.
You would.
All right, Spartan Dog. I gave everybody their own teams. So Spartan Dog, your own Michigan State Spartans. What is your resolution for them?
Yeah, my resolution for the Spartans is keep up the good work. Right? They're a little, the best resolutions stick when you start them before January 1st. And the season started off rocky. It's been rough. But if you're able to keep up the progress and you're continuing to show the signs that you are indeed the team people thought you to be, you're going to be in good shape come tournament time. Now you gave yourself a tougher road because you've eliminated yourself from the top 3 seed lines basically. But can you be that buzzsaw that everyone expected you to be?
That's a good point. Russ, you agree with that? Keep up the good work?
Yeah, we're all kind of getting a little poetic here, talking about starting resolutions early and all that. Yeah. I agree with that. Definitely, Michigan State's done it before. Izzo's done it before. So they're not out of it yet by any means. It's just, can you go back to that, what's worked? Can you go back to your kind of your old self, the way don't make life harder than it has to be. You know how to do it. You know the blueprint, like just go out and get it done.
Very true. Very true. All right. My resolution for Minnesota is to stop with the self-imposed turnovers. All right. They are last in the Big Ten in turnovers per possession, last in turnovers second to last in turnovers per game. That doesn't mean that they have low turnovers. It means they have a lot of turnovers. And yet the Minnesota opponents are last in the Big Ten in steals per game, which means a lot of these turnovers that are happening against Minnesota are not because the other team is making an outstanding play and getting a steal. It's because Minnesota is being careless with the ball, not making the right reads, not making things happen, and turning the ball over unnecessarily, which comes back a lot on Ben Johnson, which we'll get to with the Big Ten stuff, or the coaching rankings later on. But they have to stop with the self-imposed turnovers. They have to do a better job of taking care of the ball. And if the other team steals it, they steal it, good on them. But at the end of the day, you can't let that kind of stuff happen. Russ, you agree with me there? What are your thoughts? Oh, Russ is muted.
Sorry, my fault.
There you go.
It's funny too, because I was saying "don't be stupid," and I'm muted. So yeah, that was like if you're gonna make it personal as a New Year's resolution, like don't make life harder than it is. Like kind of like Michigan State, like don't be stupid. Don't you know how to play the game of basketball. Play it the right way. Make them beat you. Don't beat yourself.
Exactly. You agree, Spartan Dog?
Yeah, absolutely. It just plenty of people are gunning for you. Don't aim at your own foot.
Yep. I agree. All right, Russ, team who's been hot this year. So I don't know what their resolution exactly will be, but you had to come up with one. So what do you have for the Nebraska Cornhuskers?
Yeah, so I have a little bit of advantage because when we did our season preview, Nebraska is a team I had to help out with because at the time we had no pod for them. So I had a little bit of homework on them already. And my resolution is just, take advantage of the gifts in front of you, right? Like we're just out of Christmas, going into New Year's resolution, like accept the gifts, say thank you, put them to good use. Don't put the gifts to the side and play with the box. You've been gifted a schedule that before the season, it looked better than maybe it is now. Like you had Purdue, Illinois, Michigan State, and Maryland were kind of the consensus top 4 teams, right? Well, those are all single play games for Nebraska. So they have probably one of the easiest conference schedules, and they have a hot start now to go with it. So just take advantage of that. Don't overthink it. You're playing really good, unselfish basketball. Just take advantage of what's in front of you and go get the job done, get in the tournament. Maybe you make a run.
I totally agree. I think Nebraska is set up for a tournament run here to be able to, or set up to make the tournament and possibly go on a run here. And they have the guys to be able to do it in the Big Ten. So that's a huge, huge thing for them. Spartan Dog, we'll go and just skip to your Northwestern Wildcats resolution. What's your resolution for them?
My resolution for the Northwestern Wildcats is to find Boo Buie employment. I'm sick and tired of seeing this guy play college basketball. Get a job, dude. Get a job. I'm sorry. I'm all for player empowerment and transferring and using that extra year of eligibility or whatever. But get a job, man. I'm sick of this. You're messing up Northwestern's graduation statistics. I'm so fed up with seeing Boo Buie on my television screen dropping 38 against MSU. I'm over it. Go do something else. Deloitte is hiring, man.
So your resolution for them was to get rid of their best player to help out your team?
Yes.
Hey, I'm for it. I wish we'd have done it a little bit earlier in the season, but I'm for it. Yeah.
I was going to say, Russ is probably for that one as well. That's hilarious. All right, we'll get to my Buckeyes. Ohio State, please, for the love of everything that is holy and good, do not go on your January slump this year. Just if you lose a game, don't get down on yourself. Come back, win the next one. Don't lose 3 in a row. Don't lose, 11 in a row last year. Just if you lose, it's okay. The world is not falling apart. Everything's not crumbling. It's okay. You can recover, and we'll be fine from there. So, Russ, do you have any thoughts on Ohio State and the January slump?
Mine was identical. I said avoid the slump.
You think so too, Spartan Dog?
Absolutely. You can't afford to go on a slump like they did last year, 11 in a row. I mean, that basically eliminated you from NCAA tournament contention. So you just gotta keep yourself steady. Don't stack losses, right? Just win the games you should win and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Win the games you should win. That's a new thing to put over the part where Ohio State walks out. Win the games you should win. I would love that pregame speech. All right, Russ, your Purdue Boilermakers, they're looking hot. They're looking really, really good. What's your resolution for them?
Yeah, so this is another related to a real life one. What's one of the most common New Year's resolutions is lose a little weight, right? Like get rid of that stubborn belly fat. It's an easy one to do, but it's also an easy one to not do, right? It's easy to go beat that double-digit seed in March, get that nice draw, but then if you don't pay attention and you take it off in the first half and go, we'll get behind it, we'll get it taken care of. All of a sudden, you're looking at the final score and you're out of it, or you're going to overtime and you're like, what's going on? So that's my resolution is just, I feel like we're in pretty good shape to get a decent seed, obviously maybe even the number 1 overall seed, but can we get rid of that stubborn belly fat, get out of that first weekend, and then really get to business in March?
I agree. Spartan Dog, you have any thoughts on the Purdue Boilermakers losing a little weight?
No, absolutely. I definitely think that losing a little weight is going to be good for them and kind of just getting that monkey off their back and getting into that second weekend so you can finally shake that reputation.
That's what I was going to say. I wonder if it's less about stubborn belly fat and more about the monkey on the back, the weight they need to lose. But it all makes sense. I agree, Russ. They can be a very dangerous team if they just get over that hump. A very dangerous team in March. So, all right, Spartan Dog, what do you got for Penn State?
For Penn State, they got to figure out who they are without Micah Shrewsbury, right? Micah Shrewsbury took the Penn State basketball program to heights, I don't think they've ever reached, right? And him leaving was a major blow to the program, and maybe said a little more about how Penn State views basketball than anything else. If you're the Nittany Lions, you really have to look at what you need to do to succeed, not only in the Big Ten, but in the future, because you have 4 teams coming in, and a few of them are pretty serious about basketball. So, the base rock bottom can get lower, believe it or not. You gotta pick yourselves off the mat here and kind of form your new identity post Shrewsbury.
Yeah, this is the thing I've harped on with Penn State pretty much all year, is like, what's your identity? What's the identity of this team? Who's your playmaker? Who's your guy that you go to when you need something? That's kind of what I've been harping on. Do you agree with that, Russ?
Yeah, I wrote keep it together. Get an identity, keep it together. You've got to build an upward trend in the program. They're 6-6. A tournament is probably not in the future, maybe NIT, but yeah, can you keep guys like sophomore Kanye Clary has been quite the revelation for them, right? Going from 4 points a game to over 17 points a game. So can you get an identity? Can you keep guys in-house? And can you do a good job this offseason and build that program up with these 4 teams coming in and the conference getting tougher?
Couldn't agree more. All right. We'll go ahead and go to Rutgers now. And mine is very simple. Don't be Iowa football. All right. So it's very simple. Okay. You are currently last in the Big Ten in offensive rating. You're currently first in the Big Ten in defensive rating. I'm not saying make the defensive rating lower, but I am saying let's focus a little bit more on offense. There's no Big Ten West in college basketball. All right. It's not a winning formula. So, I'm very excited for the players that Rutgers has coming in next year. But this year, let's get a little bit more offense, be able to do a little bit more efficiency with that. Russ, you agree, disagree? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's similar to Penn State for me, but it's keep the recruiting class intact.
Yeah.
Until that guy's in the uniform and on the court for your team, anything can happen. So, don't, improve offense, yes, but make the product look good enough that you don't lose what you got coming in.
I agree. Spartan Dog, you agree? Don't be Iowa football, keep the recruits.
I agree. Defense is a great thing. Great defense is a great thing. It's sort of a lost art in modern basketball, right? But you can have the best defense in the world. If someone gets hot, and you're not able to put out the fire a little bit by putting the ball in the bucket, then what are you, right? I was running into this problem all the time. So you definitely got to be able to manufacture points. And Rutgers has not shown that they're able to do that, right? When it gets close, who are you going to that is going to get you points guaranteed? They don't have that guy right now.
Yeah. They have their guaranteed lockdown defenders, but they don't have their guaranteed offensive weapons. So, all right, Russ, finish us out. Wisconsin, what's their resolution?
So it's kind of opposite of what you just said, actually. So I think their defense needs to get a little bit better. They're not a terrible team. They're on the verge of being one of those top 4 double bye teams in the Big Ten, but their KenPom defensive efficiency is right at about 36th, I think, right now. And if they're going to make a Sweet 16 challenge or even a deeper run, I think they got to get that defense a little closer to the top 20. And they've got the pieces, they got the balanced offense, I think, to be one of the better teams in the Big Ten and make a run in March.
I agree. Totally agree. All right. Hey, I think these are some good resolutions. So if any coaches are watching, here's your blueprint for what to do in 2024. I know so many Big Ten coaches are probably watching. And hey, we didn't fire anybody. So I think that's a plus. We didn't say anybody should be fired. So.
We're getting there. That's next.
Yeah. Right. Listen to the Big Ten Huddle. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If this was your first time listening, we are the Big Ten Huddle. We cover all things Big Ten football and basketball. We have a long episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all at 9 o'clock. So come in, check us out, get in the chat, let us know what you're thinking. We would love to have you join us and learn more about the Big Ten.